it's Kelsey, and today I'm here with Rick, and we're actually going to talk to you about our experiences in Japan. So, we actually both lived there for a while, taught English.
Nippon!
But we had slightly different experiences. I also went to school there, so going to talk to you kind of about how you could have that for yourself if you wanted to go, and kind of what your options are. So first of all, I wanted you to talk about the program that you joined, because I know that it's one of the more popular, heard of programs, so I am sure people are very interested. So, go ahead.
All right. Well, I went to Japan through the JET program, which is another company that contracts ALTs from various countries into Japan to teach English and to be ambassadors of their countries.
And what's an ALT?
An ALT is an assistant language teacher. So they would be, there's various situations where an ALT is needed in the classroom setting and even outside of the classroom setting. But usually, typically, they will be assisting with language teaching in Japanese schools. And it's usually English.
So when you were doing it, was there a teacher in the room? A Japanese teacher?
I had both scenarios where I did have a teacher and when I didn't have a teacher. I think more so than not, it's actually like half and half, because I did elementary school and junior high school. Usually in junior high school, the teacher is there as well. You would do team teaching in junior high school. But most of the elementary schools, the language teachers would give the reins to the ALT to teach English in the elementary schools.
And did you have to get any kind of certificate for it or degree for it? Or is it for everybody?
It is for everybody. I think the only requirement, and I think it's actually just for visa purposes, you need to have a bachelor's degree in any field. It literally can be any field as long as you have a certificate, a bachelor's degree that states you do have one.
And as far as like the actual classroom stuff goes, did you have to do like lesson planning, or was it all given to you? Like how was it structured?
I actually had both scenarios, really. More so in elementary school, even though we did have a suggested kyokasho, the textbook, we had full reign to do almost anything we wanted to do as long as we kept on interacting with the kids. So elementary schools did not have a textbook or a set lesson plan unless you really required it. But in junior high school, they do follow their own lesson plan, because by junior high school they're required to take English, and it's not just as a second language, but it's actually a part of their studies. And there's usually a plan for that, so usually the ALT in junior high school would follow that plan and then teach with the teacher.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like it could be a lot of work, but also fun.
I don't really think there was any point in time where it wasn't fun, but it definitely was a lot of work. Welcomed work.
And as far as like living assistance and getting the visa, did they like help you with that kind of stuff?
The JET program was really helpful when it came to transitioning to Japan, and that was one of the super noticeable parts about the JET program. After I filled out most of my paperwork, it was pretty much clockwork from there. I got my visa, and then I didn't have to really do most of the application for the visa. I gave them the documents. They would take care of all of the visa work, and then I'd be able to just get my visa. And then from there, it was just going straight to my job. But in terms of orientation, the support group that was there, usually anywhere you go, your predecessor usually does a good job in welcoming you to wherever you're going. And I think, that's actually a part of the JET program's guidelines for the predecessors to pave the way to success for their successors.
And what kind of places can people end up?
Everywhere. From very, very north in Japan, from Hokkaido, all the way down to the islands of Okinawa, which is where I was.
And what was it like living on an island?
It felt like I was living on an island.
What does that feel like?
There were constraints to traveling, of course. we did not have a public transit system. There was probably one bus on the island I was on, but we definitely needed a car or at least a bike to get around. If you were in the main part of the city, being just having a bike is probably fine, but I think every ALT except for the high school ALT had more than 3 or 4 schools, and they were on all parts of the island, including neighboring islands that are a part of the island.
Did you choose where you were gonna go, or did they just place you?
They placed me. I did have some preferences, which I gave them. I had 3 preferences, but I was put on the wait list. And then after being on the wait list for a few months, they actually came back to me with an offer, and I figured anywhere is better than where I was because I really just wanted to go to Japan, right? Who doesn't want to go to the big Nippon? So I took it.
So basically, from the first time that you submitted your application and all of that, about how long did it take for you actually to get on the plane and go?
It was a very lengthy process.
Yeah.
I started my applications in November.
Oh, wow.
And then after I submitted in November, I didn't get any contact until about maybe February or so to do the first interview process. I think the interview process was, I could be totally wrong. This is so long ago, guys. But I do remember the length of time between the actual in-person interview to the time that I left. I started in July. I got notice that I was leaving in July in June, which was less than a month prior to my flight. So I had minimal time to get myself ready. But I think after I did the interview process and I found out I was on the wait list, I think I subliminally still kept myself prepared just in case they gave me an offer. I guess that's what it means to be on the wait list. I have to wait.
And I heard that there's a time limit on how long the program will last. Can you explain a little bit about that?
With the JET program specifically, back when I was doing the JET program, because this was about 8 years ago when I was finished with the program, they go on yearly contracts. So you are contracted for 1 year, and you are required to finish the whole entire year. And if you do well, you are able to get 2 more contracts for a year each, up to 3 years. But if the Board of Education where you're at enjoys you so much, they will give you an offer to stay even longer.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah? So would you recommend it to someone who wants to go to Japan?
Yes, I definitely would recommend the JET program. As it was when I left, they were still evolving as a program, and the pay was good, the support was really good, the placement wasn't bad, but it's still better. If you want to go to Japan, you probably shouldn't really worry about where you go. Go to Japan. That's what you should do. So I definitely recommend the JET program, or any program that would allow you to go to Japan.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and give a little overview of my experience because it's slightly different. So I started off as a student. So I went there to go to school, and I did that for about a year. Student visas are pretty easy to get, so the actual visa process only took me a couple months, and like from the time that I applied, I did it as an exchange program, first through my college, but then I applied to the school later to just be a student there, and it was really, really easy to transfer from an exchange student visa to an actual student visa. So, I mean, if you want to get there really fast and you can afford the tuition, I really recommend going that route. But afterwards, I did end up working and teaching English, except I didn't teach at a school. So there are programs called Eikaiwa, and basically it's an English-only school, but instead of teaching just children, it's mostly adults. So it's like people come and they pay for individual lessons, and then you teach maybe like 40 minutes to 50 minutes depending on the program that you work with. And I actually worked for 2 different companies while I was there, so I feel like I got a pretty well-rounded experience. It was a route that I would recommend. I ended up having a lot of free time, which was really nice because I did get to explore on the weekends. But As far as vacation time and the strictness of the workplace, it's actually a lot of pressure. It was very difficult to maintain that kind of sleep schedule, and sometimes I would be on the train traveling for maybe like an hour, and that's one way. So it was a huge commitment to work in the different locations. Although I only had a few of them, I was commuting pretty far. And when I was there, I lived in the like Tokyo area and Chiba, so I was in more of like the city area, whereas you were on an island, which is a lot smaller.
Rural.
Very rural.
Rural. Sugarcane, tobacco, and cows. And goats.
So yeah, our experiences were really, really different. But I would recommend the one that I did also. It's more long-term, so if you wanted to stay a really long time, they usually do it by contract, but there is no restriction for how many times you renew it. Basically, as long as you meet the requirements and you pass your reviews and you do well, they'll ask you to come back. So it's really actually pretty easy to maintain that job. But the thing is, you do have to go through the visa process on your own. They don't usually assist with living. So you gotta pay your taxes, and it is a lot of individual work. But if you want to work on independence in a foreign country, I would recommend it. It's very challenging and totally worth it.
That's actually one thing that the JET program was fairly efficient on in support of their ALTs. Even though I had to do the same thing in terms of paying taxes and paying the cost of living for everything, it felt like it was handed to me, and I just had to take the reins and take over someone's apartment and even someone's car, and then the taxes were automatically taken out of my paycheck, and as well as health insurance wasn't covered, but the program helped me get the health insurance automatically, so I didn't really have to worry about setup with that. The hardest part for me was setting up my utilities with my apartment.
I had health insurance too, just so you guys know. Pretty much if you get a work visa, you're going to be on Japan's national health insurance, which covers 70% of your costs. But actually living there is relatively cheap. I'd say that apartment costs are pretty low, food is really low. You don't have to tip in restaurants, by the way. Although sometimes I want to, because they are excellent with service. They're really nice.
How was the teaching situation for you? Eikaiwa is usually one-on-one, but was there any situation where you taught more than one person at a time?
Yeah, there was actually. I had a couple kid classes, and those had the potential to be larger, but I think my largest one was maybe 7 children, and those classes never went past middle school level. So once they entered high school, they would join the adult classes. For the first program that I did, I could have up to 4 students, but I usually did one-on-one. And they provide the text, and they train you with how to teach it, and you do have to follow their system, so there's not a lot of independence. And you do get reviews.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it's strict because in one of the programs that I worked for, the reviews actually reflected in your paycheck. So you do have to really perform well and work very, very hard if you want to survive. Also, if you want to apply for these jobs, the JET program information, did they have it on just their own website?
The way that I applied was I spoke to the head of the Japanese department over at the school I was at, and she gave me information, and I pretty much kind of followed that. Whether it was online or written, I don't remember. I have a feeling it was written though, because back then, internet wasn't as prominent as it is now.
For my application process, I used a website called gaijinpot.com.
Ooh.
They have a lot of options for different types of jobs, not just teaching English, but if you decide to go with another career path, chances are you will need to speak some Japanese. So I do recommend that you study and maybe get a certificate, like taking the JLPT test, which is available in multiple countries. Usually, if it's not in Japan, it's only offered once a year, so you do want to check the schedule, and I think it's at the embassies for Japan. So that's something to look into, because with that certification, you have a lot more opportunities, because not everybody wants to be a teacher.
I actually am really interested in doing another video later on about maybe details on which program, because we did do an overview about her Eikaiwa experience and my experience with an ALT program like JET. And as you are able to hear, there are huge differences between them. But maybe doing another video focusing on specific questions, the same question, and then maybe describing from our points of view about those questions might give you guys a little bit more insight on what you would be interested in trying.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. So with that in mind, go ahead and send us your questions and we can answer pretty much anything. You can include stuff about being a student, because I can give you information on that too. Yeah, you guys want to go to Japan? Ask us. We've done it and we can give you some good advice.
Where else can you find two people that have done both sides of the spectrum?
Yeah! Alright, well, that's the end of this video, so thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done it yet, and don't forget to click the bell down in the corner for notifications so you can see future videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!